You're listening to Not Another Atheist Podcast, the Ramble Without a Cause podcast that breaks down issues in the secular humanist community and tries each week to push the limits of the explicit tag. I'm the polite Canadian Keith, and joining me as always is the New York born and bound bundle of sass and attitude Jen. Jen, as always, thank you for setting aside the time to join me.
Okay.
So this is kind of a special episode. On this lovely July Eve, we have another YY.
July Eve of what? What is it the eve of?
I don't know, it's a July evening. Jesus fuck.
Oh, I thought you just said July Eve. I'm like, did I miss something?
No, you did not. So, joining us tonight and sitting directly beside me is Jason, I hope I'm going to pronounce this right, Droboth. We went to school together, and by that I do mean we attended the same university. He is the president, and I hope I got this right when I say founder of the secular humanist group at my old university, Mount Royal. So I'd like to give you a warm NAAP welcome.
Hello, and thank you for coming on tonight.
Thanks for having me.
So the reason we brought Jason on, it actually incidentally ended up being twofold. We had messaged him about the group at the university. We had hoped to kind of bring him on. There was kind of an uprising in chatter on the secular podcast community discussing the secular student groups. Dogma Debate did a 24-hour broadcast-a-thon raising money for secular students of America. I can't remember total figures, but they did quite well. They raised in the upward high 5 digits for this group. We'll provide links to this group so you can kind of check it out. Essentially what they do is they just go out to universities when students message them, provide them with tools necessary in order to create their own little secular societies, because as you know, there are plenty of religious societies, and to specifically focus on just an atheist group, well, that's really not going to do it. So secular humanism.
Yeah, but you guys are way more tolerant than we are down here for them. So
it's true. So we have 2 topics we're going to go into, and that's all I'm going to say about that. So the first one, we're just going to kind of talk about the group, and then the second one, we'll get to know Jason just a little bit more, and that's all I'm going to leave you with. So I guess the first thing that we'd like to discuss is, how did you get involved with the secular humanist group at Mount Royal?
Well, excuse me. I got involved with the group you were right. I was one of the founders. I was one of the founders with also another guy named David Reel. And I met him. It's funny that you say you met all these people and started these podcasts by meeting people on all these atheist groups online. And actually, I met David Reel online on a meetup actually.
Oh, okay.
And it was an atheist meetup here in Calgary, and we met up and found out that we had quite a few similarities, even more so than all the atheists within the group, because we both had just recently left our religions, and both of our religions weren't the same, but they're often mistaken to be the same. So he was recently Mormon, and I was Jehovah's Witness. So we kind of got together and thought, hey, yeah, she's going, wow. Yeah, wow is right. Yeah, so we just started talking about school and what was going on there, and we realized that there really was no group, no atheist or secular group on campus. And to be honest, it was kind of a selfish reason. We needed that community ourselves, and so we created that community on campus. And we knew that there probably would be, since there was the 2 of us, there'd probably also be others who would be willing to join as well, others in similar situations. And our major angle from the beginning was because we saw the perils of leaving religions, of how difficult it can be. Sometimes it's really traumatic. Sometimes it's just, you just have to try to adapt to this new ideology that you have, or just this new culture you're in. So we wanted to provide a space for people to feel safe and question their beliefs and whatnot.
So I think it's interesting that you kind of call it a selfish reason, saying we need a community, when you take a look at the human species. I mean, sitting on your table as soon as I walked into your place,
right.
It was sapiens. We know that we're a social community type species. We kind of only thrive when we're in groups of more than one. So in essence, it really wasn't that selfish. It was just kind of saying, hey,
Don't mind the cat.
we're
He's
here.
lost his mind.
We know they're
Sorry.
probably going to be more like us, so
Sorry.
we're going to bring them all together so everybody has a sense of community. Yeah, it's not my cat. It's okay. Joys of editing.
I left my cats in my girlfriend's house. So that
No, that's podcasting.
Because they'd be all up on the keyboard the whole time.
That's our podcast.
Cats are impolite.
Yeah.
Mine regularly hops up on my lap, or she'll make a point of making her face seen.
Yeah, exactly.
So I can't remember if it was you or if it was actually David who I initially met when I signed my name on the registrar. I think it might have actually been your first year. One of the things that was discussed was just that there had been an atheist group and they were just really combative and it was creating a lot of problems.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what we heard. When we had told people that we were creating this group, we noticed not pushback, but when we talked to people who had been around for a while, mostly those kind of within the club scene, clubs coordinators, and also chaplains within the chaplaincy on campus, and just different groups on campus. We could tell they were kind of taken aback and a bit concerned about it. And we thought, okay, what is our goal here, and what is the reservation that people have to it? What's happened in the past? And so yeah, that I can't confirm or deny it 100%, but I've heard that in the past there was a group and they were just very combative, and it was a formula that didn't work. So, and it's not my style either, and it wasn't David's style either. And we decided we would go with our own style and with something that we could try that we think might work better, and that was to be as inclusive as possible and be more of a space to question ideas and less to toss out ideas quickly.
Attack each other, yeah. I don't get this whole aggressive atheist attack movement. I kind of don't get it. I mean, I get being militant, but I don't get being aggressive about it.
Yeah, you mean like the fedora wearers who will sit there and post pictures of, this is the God delusion, this is my Bible, like, don't get me wrong, it's not a bad book, but to sit there and say that this is my equivalent of a Bible. Yeah, they're the ones who really...
Well, more so like the overly confrontational ones.
Preachy?
I don't get it. Like, isn't this what we've been running from religion? Is that overly aggressive, no, you have to believe this, and you're going to hell if you don't shove this shit down your throat. And then it's like, okay, granted, you're not threatening them with hell, but it's like, that is their version of hell. These people have been thinking about, like, heaven or, Valhalla or whatever the fuck you want to believe in and shit. And then it's like, no, you're not going there. You're going to rot in the fucking ground and animals are going to eat you and you're going to degrade. Oh my god, that's hell. What the fuck is wrong with you people? It's exactly the shit we ran away from. Like, why are you trying to do this again? I don't get that. I don't get it.
Yeah, I think sometimes it might stem from pain as well. And I noticed that I'll get into it later if we have time, but just in my own kind of process of leaving my religious beliefs behind, there was definitely a lot of pain behind it, and also just that realization that, like, wow, what I used to believe it's
fun.
Yeah, and it's just plain and simple. It's just stupid. Like, what I used to believe it was stupid. But
and I get the anger and I get the pain, but see a therapist. Stop projecting it on fucking people who don't want to hear that shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. Just because you believe something stupid doesn't mean you are stupid, and doesn't mean you should be belittled for it. We're all victims of our surroundings.
No, I mean, if I get like an aggressive religious person, I'm gonna make him look fucking stupid. Because I mean, you come at me like that, then yeah, but if you want to sit here and believe in your little heart-filled fairy meadows, and who the fuck am I to take that shit from you? You know what I mean?
Nothing wrong with self-defense.
Shut up, Sam.
Yeah. I did want to highlight the whole anger from leaving religion thing. As I was saying when I first got here, is I do my best to kind of listen to a lot of podcasts. No Religion Required. Bobby Terry, he does a fairly good job of covering, a lot of the anger that he had when he left the church, because he left it when he was in his 40s, and he's sitting there saying in a very thick Southern drawl that I'm not even going to insult by trying to imitate. And he says, "What the damn hell? I was misled for 40 odd years. what the damn hell? I'm kind of quoting him when I say that, but it's understandable that you feel as though you've been lied to your whole life. So there is that animosity that I can understand when you realize that there's been wool over your eyes for so many years, and then suddenly you sit there and you go, holy shit. So it's kind of like a bit of a backlash, and I've come to realize that a lot of people, when they do really leave religion, especially if they do leave it on bad terms, they can hang on to a little bit of that resentment just for a little bit of time, and then it kind of tapers off, and they start to calm down, and they just sit there and they go, okay, well, these are the priorities, these are the fights
Right.
to fight. Let's tackle religion where it encroaches on human rights and dignity.
Mm-hmm.
I think I'm like the only person that didn't have that anger and resentment when leaving. I just didn't. I had no anger towards it. I had no resentment. Nothing. I was just like, oh,
Yeah,
okay,
it
so that's
affects
like it was kind of like, oh, okay, that's what this is. Okay. I think that was the easiest thing in my life to ever do. Was actively just come to terms with the fact that I'm an atheist. I was like, oh, okay. And like that was it. That was like it for me. So I kind of I get the fact that people are angry, but I just don't understand it because I never had that flash anger.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's different for every person, and for some people it doesn't affect them in that way, and some people it does. And I think the unfortunate thing is when is this whole idea of the angry atheist, where automatically because you're angry you're discounted, and it takes away from what you're saying. If a person's angry,
Absolutely.
sometimes they have the right to be angry, and because a person's angry, you shouldn't belittle them for it. If someone was a victim of
Be angry about
some
it.
sort of crime or something, they would have all the right to be angry, and we wouldn't say, oh, what are you so angry about, and start to like side with the other person just because the victim is angry. So yeah, it's kind of an unfortunate thing that I've noticed, but
I mean,
I think
emotion
it's
is
still
the
important for us
absolute.
to
Emotion is the
try to
death
rise
of reason.
above and still
You
be
really can't look at things from a
cool-headed
reasonable standpoint when you're completely wrapped up emotionally.
Yeah, absolutely, exactly. Mm-hmm. It's not doing anyone any favors.
So I just kind of want to reel it back in here, just kind of talking about the secular humanist group. So we've gone over, the origins, even the prequel story to it. So now why don't we kind of get into what is it that the group does? What's a basic meeting like?
Well, we tried a bunch of different things. It's constantly changing and evolving. Hopefully this year it changes into something different as well, because the main founding members now are starting to graduate. And that is definitely probably one of the most difficult things is transition and passing the torch, because it's our baby, right? The people who started are fine putting in all the work, but if it's not your baby to begin with, it's hard, and that is absolutely an issue that a lot of clubs face, and secular groups are absolutely not immune to that. But we've tried anything from we've actually tried to get. Luckily, the university we go to, the professors are very involved in their students, and so we made use of the professors by having them at a lot of our meetings. We've done things called, for example, we have pint with a prof. That's pint as in the beer.
Oh, I love that.
We buy them, take them out, and buy them a beer, and we just chat. Sometimes we have we preface it through the emails and our advertising as to who the prof is, what their research is, and that we're just going to kind of shoot the shit basically with them and listen to what their research is. Usually it doesn't surround that. Usually the professors are more interested in what we have to say. Oddly enough.
I mean, you guys actually have a system that works.
Yeah, they actually care sometimes. Yeah. So it's usually pretty cool in that aspect. We try to host a lot of events as well that are more like for the public and whatnot, where there's actual like attenders and tickets and that kind of stuff, and so those can be in the form of speakers and whatnot. Sometimes they're
Get
just
together and shoot
basic
the
meetings
shit.
where we just get together and there's nothing planned at all. We just sit and chat, right? Yeah. We toyed around with a few different ideas. We toyed around with the idea of doing something called something like Recovering from Religion, where it's a support group for people who have left religion. We never actually went ahead with that, but I think we still kind of covered those bases in our meetings. But so yeah, where we had speakers, and one of the things that I'm most proud of actually that we recently did were these kind of mini lectures, and where we got a prof, sometimes two profs, to come in and do these mini intro lectures to some sort of topic. So we did one on evolution, for example, and we had tons of people come out who, some of them were Christians as well, who had never really looked into evolution at all.
Really question their beliefs between creationism and evolution.
Yeah, exactly, and they were just blown away by it, and so that was really cool, just being able to like present this kind of introductory lecture by a professional for free to the general public, and the people that attended absolutely loved it. Even people who have taken classes from those profs before and felt like they knew a lot on the topic still learned a ton. And then people who had, like, we had non-university students even who heard about it and came, and they loved it. So yeah, those sorts of things have worked out.
Well, that's going to dovetail right into my next question, actually. I know you've kind of glimpsed my notes a few times just to kind of get a feel for what exactly I'm planning on raking over the coals with. And so you kind of mentioned some...
Sorry, we've got the Democratic National Convention going tonight, so I keep...
Oh, you got to... I don't know if Eli is still tweeting about that, but... it was hilarious.
The coronation of Hillary Clinton.
Yeah. So you kind of said... made a few mentions of like special events and whatnot. Now I can point to two speakers that I know you've had. The first one was Nathan Phelps, the father of the now deceased Fred Phelps, I think his name was.
Yep, Fred Phelps. As
well as Aaron Ra recently. So how did you get in touch with those guys and kind of get them to come out, and would you have them do like just lectures, or did they come out and just do a meet and greet?
Nathan Phelps was probably the coolest one, and so crazy. It was our first year, and it really blew us away. We had no idea what the fuck we were doing, and it just kept evolving into a huge beast. Because so Nathan Phelps, he actually lives in the Calgary area, so he's from the States, obviously, but he lives in Canada now. He's on my friends list. No big deal.
Believe me, it's an option.
Deal, eh?
It's an option. That is an option for many of us right now.
Yeah, we're welcoming you.
Yeah, and your country actually just made the immigration policies a little easier for us too. Like, they just know, they're like, yeah, fuck it.
Yeah, we're thinking ahead, exactly.
Yeah, just fuck it. Come on, just fucking leave now. Come on, let's just come on.
And we know the people that are going to be exiting are the people that we would want to have here, anyways.
Believe me, I've spoken to Keith about it a few times.
There, okay.
Yeah, we're making plans.
So yeah, he lives here in Canada, and he was actually the president, I believe, was his title, of our local Center for Inquiry chapter, CFI. It just kind of worked out to the fact that, you know, he is in town and he's this awesome speaker, and he covers kind of the stuff that we're interested in talking about, in that experience of what it's like to change your beliefs. And he said, yeah, absolutely, I'll speak for you guys. So we rented out this really nice theater on campus and advertised it like crazy, and to the public as well. And then all of a sudden, basically 2 weeks or so, something like that, the sooner we got to the event, the more sick his father was getting, and the more news coverage was happening. And like a day or two before, basically the news was like, Fred Phelps is on his deathbed. He's going to die at any moment. And what would you know, he died the morning of Nate Phelps' talk.
So Nate Phelps actually did the talk that same day?
Yeah, well, so we didn't really know it was going to happen, because we're like, okay, his father just died. I mean, I know he's got a crazy relationship with his father.
If you can call that a relationship.
Yeah, if you can call that a relationship.
Yeah, he has a weird experience with
his
father in his life. Yeah,
man who happened to be his father. And so we didn't really know what was going to happen.
How many of us can identify with that? I mean, honestly, though, how many? I mean, not to a Fred Phelps perspective,
not that
but
extent.
Yeah, a few of us can understand. A few of us can kind of get it.
Yeah. So he went ahead with it, and we had a lot of press and stuff there, which was actually a really cool experience for club members and for us organizers and stuff to deal with deal with the press and deal with just that amount of people coming. Like we gained a lot of important skills from that, and it was just a really crazy experience. And we had some press attend the event, and he gave his statement. Nate Phelps gave his statement at the talk. So he gave his wonderful talk just on his father's relationship, and then at the end he read a statement, and it was just absolutely chilling. And so after that, we were kind of like, what the fuck did we get ourselves into? Like, we just kind of created this club, and we're like, hey, let's have this like guy speak. And we're like, hey, let's try and have 300 people come to it.
Holy shit, suddenly we have news coverage.
Oh,
and then
okay.
public. Exactly. And then I'm trying to go to class, and I've got all these like media people calling me, wanting an interview with them. And yeah, it was quite the ride. I would say that was probably the most insane things ever were.
Did he say anything? Because I had heard and read something about Westboro Baptist Church actually being labeled a hate group and therefore not actually allowed in Canada. Did he touch on that at all?
I can't remember if he did touch on that. Yeah, I can't remember on that one.
Because I know Jim had mentioned he's the guy who did up our logo. He was on our 1-year anniversary because he's kind of been my go-to. I'm like, hey, what do you think about this? I run a lot of ideas on him before I bring him to Jen because he listens to more podcasts than I do, so he kind of has an idea. Right. And then if it's a good idea, then I'll be like, hey, Jen, want to try this? And she'll go, yeah, sure. Jen's good that way. She's really experimental.
Yeah, I try to keep it open.
So on top of Nathan Phelps, you also had Aaron Raw recently come out. I was really disappointed. I couldn't make that because I was working. How does that organize and everything?
That was pretty cool. He's definitely a very interesting guy. We actually we worked with CFI on that one. So CFI, again, the Center for Inquiry. They did the majority of the organization, and we were happy to provide them with a room and bring in a few people as well. And yeah, he was really good. But nothing like Nate Phelps. Nate Phelps was a whirlwind.
Well, that Nate Phelps was quite literally a once in a lifetime opportunity.
Yeah, it totally was. I mean, yeah, Aaron was a really cool guy, but Aaron, like, there's only like a select few people who know, like, if you're in the community, you might know who he is.
Yeah.
You know?
Right.
Whereas Nate, at least by describing who he is, people know. You know, you can just say, oh, you know the Westboro Baptist Church, and people are like, oh, yes, I know that.
Oh, yeah. Like, you do that.
Yeah, so actually it's funny to go back to Nate Phelps again. Every time we would describe the event to people and say, oh, yeah, it's, you know, Nate Phelps, and they say, who's that? And then we'd say, well, he used to be a part of Westboro Baptist Church or whatever. They would think that, like, he was for Westboro Baptist Church,
right? Like he was still in the church. Yeah, we had to
continually tell them, no.
No.
He's the bastard against left.
Yeah, exactly.
I still find it fascinating how his sister screams Christianity and brings her illegitimate son with her everywhere.
Yeah, it's like the Palins, but. Well, we got to preach the Bible, but our kids are going to pop out every illegitimate child that they can because it makes sense. So the last point.
Here's Podcast Cat.
Hello, Podcast. Podcat. I don't know. So the last point that I had that I kind of wanted to talk to you about Secular Humanist MRU is what type of activism and special causes do you guys kind of get up to? Do you organize like any?
That's actually the next question I was going to ask. Like, do you go out into the community, or is it just kind of centered to the group, or just the college?
Yeah. Well. Yeah, we've toyed around the idea with wanting to do, because the weird thing is we haven't done a lot in the like charitable aspect. I mean, we provide, like, one of the things that we did recently, which I'm happy with, is providing free lectures, basically free intro lectures to the community. Like it's not right. just for our school. It's people who live in Calgary.
Just for the students, yeah.
Anyone passing by who wants to look into it, but. Yeah, that's something that we've always talked about, and we always want to do something because it's important to be engaged in the community. But for some reason, just nothing has really.
It just hasn't happened yet.
And
well, I mean, it's college too, I mean, and I hate to sound selfish. Well, yeah, it's great to do things for the community. you're in college,
it's
and
so
especially
hard.
you being in your last year, that
And we always
you kind of have to be selfish for yourself for it.
and everyone always has great ideas. Like we always think, oh, why don't we just do this? And yes, let's do it. And then okay, let's start to
And then
organize
the weed
it.
kicks
And then
in.
all of a sudden,
and
the
then the
workload
weed
happens.
kicks in.
So that's
No,
the
it's
weed.
the weed. The weed kicks in, and we all know it.
Yeah. Any university student knows. No, we don't do that up here in Canada.
What are you talking about? We're right next to
Then
the
what the
province
fuck?
that grows it.
Then what the fuck do you do with all that maple syrup?
We give it to our children when they actually need medicine.
You just rub it on them, on their forehead, and they get all
So
better.
that's why everyone's so healthy in Canada. It has nothing to do with the universal health.
No,
care.
actually, I was making fun of a couple in Alberta that was recently charged something to do with childhood neglect leading to death for a child who had this specific strain of meningitis that, had they got treated, would have been fine, but instead they went to a
Right.
naturopath who told them that they had to, all they needed to do was apply maple syrup or something like that, some sort of a bath. And, the weird thing is that the stereotype is that
What?
atheists are the one who eat babies, so I'm still trying to figure out how that whole fit together.
I mean, okay, I'm just dealing with a kid getting sick from his vaccines and shit. We
Don't
have.
say it like that, because then you'll give credence to the anti-vaxxers like Robert De Niro and Jenny McCarthy and Jim Carrey, who seems to think he's trying to get with Jenny McCarthy.
Yeah, why Jim Carrey? We loved you so much.
Because he was with her for like ever, and she kind of.
Yeah, she probably just wore him away, and he's like, okay, fine.
Yeah, he's nothing but a shallow husk of a comedian, man.
And so we have vaccinations for meningitis here. I don't know if you guys don't have kids, so you wouldn't know. Believe me, I don't know about
I thought you were going to go to that, and I just found out that Canadians have internet. That was crazy.
Yeah, wow, woo! Like I don't know. It's because the FDA and you guys have a different thing and whatever.
Different thing.
Whatever.
I think she's talking about...
Actually, no. You guys actually have way more availability of medications than we do.
Mm-hmm.
I fucking hate you pricks. Anyway.
Anyway.
So, like, we have a vaccine against certain strands of meningitis. So, I mean, this is so serious that there's a fucking vaccine out there. You mean to fucking tell me that somebody told you to put your fucking child in a bathtub of Aunt Jemima and it would cure it?
Damn.
Now, I wonder if you put the water hot enough with it, is that like bacon?
No, because it's not fatty and
breakfast?
greasy. It's just like tree blood.
Have you ever seen a child? They're full of fat and grease. Come on now. They're all just chubby and cute and sweaty and yeah.
That's actually a pretty metal way of putting it. It's tree blood.
Is this like cooking bacon? I mean, do you put waffles on or pancakes on or
we put it on everything.
And I mean, syrup is, I mean, it's not super expensive here, but it's not super cheap either. Like, who eats that much syrup? Like, what? And then how do you clean your bathtub after that?
Yeah, and
how does it even
go
go down the drain without causing septic issues?
And if it was maple syrup too, I mean, that's pretty pricey stuff.
That's like seriously.
If it was Aunt Jemima's, then it might be like, okay, well, fuck, let's give it a try.
It's a little runny,
like,
but
let it sit
maple
for like a couple
syrup is
days, and then let's try something. Let's go to the actual doctor.
Right, but maple syrup is like edible cement, like edible liquid cement. Like, how does that go down the drain?
Oh, you just
Without
well, it's still
seriously
liquid
fucking-
before it's had a chance to really kind of solidify. You make sure it's nice and hot because that keeps it nice and goopy.
Oh, but still, the goopiness kind of binds to the pipes and like clogs everything up. And then trying to
Drain
scrub
off.
that shit out of your bathtub. Oh my god, a shot is just way less fucking effort at this point. Because now I gotta get the syrup. I gotta pour the syrup. I gotta make sure it's the right temperature so that, we don't cook the kid into bacon. Then I gotta take the kid out of the bathtub. Then I gotta make sure the shit doesn't fuck up my pipe. So there goes like $25 in fucking Drano right there, right? And then I gotta get on my hands and knees with a fucking steel wool pad trying to scrub this shit off my fucking bathroom with my fucking bathtub. And what if it's fucking porcelain? Who's gonna fucking just scratch fucking porcelain because you want to give your kid a fucking bath in Aunt Jemima? Who fucking thinks like this?
I think our podcast has finally completely debunked the anti-vax movement for once and for all. So on that positive note,
based off of just the fact that scrubbing your tub of Aunt Jemima it's not practical. It's too much work.
Yeah.
It's
That's
really not,
why
especially
alternative
it's
medicine doesn't work.
like if you have the fiberglass tub, I guess it's easier. But what if you got I don't know if Calgary's like an older city and you have older apartments and older fixtures, but like New York, we have these fucking straight up porcelain tubs. They're fucking porcelain. Could you imagine trying to scrub that shit out of porcelain with the little fucking cracks and shit in it? And then what are you gonna do? Go get some fucking abrasive shit and fuck up your porcelain? Like, no, this fucking shit was made in the 1800s. I'm not fucking up a porcelain tub for fucking Aunt Jemima. Get the fuck out of here. Get the kid a shot. Boom, you're done.
Boom, you're done. No mess.
So Jason is getting his
it's a little bit of blood and some tears.
He told me he only really listened to a little bit of our last episode, so he didn't get the chance to listen to the full experience that is Jen's New York rave.
Yeah, I like how the accent is coming in
like,
so hardcore there.
Like, okay, I mean, he has the whole cleanup and everything compared to what? The kid gets a shot in the fucking leg, you put a Band-Aid over it, right? It's a little bit of blood, it's not that bad. My kid got sick from the DPT shot. He was throwing up, which I can't have the whooping cough shot. I have severe reactions to it.
Okay.
Like, they gave me one as an infant, and my fever shot up to like 105, 106. Like, I can't have it. So I'm like, he's gonna get sick from the fucking pertussis. He puked for like 6 hours and then ate everything in my house. He was fine. Okay, so you got a little bit of puke to clean up. I'd rather clean up puke in a fucking bucket than fucking scrub maple syrup out of a fucking bathtub. Who the fuck? I don't even like cleaning my bathtub already, and it ain't that I do it once a fucking week. I mean, what do you even put in that? Is that Ajax? Is it like CLR? Is it like the calcium lime rust spray? I don't even know.
We know what CLR is here in
Do you heat
Canada.
it up?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know if you have it there. I don't know. I don't go fucking shopping up there. The only thing I know that you have is fucking Kinder Eggs and fucking.
Oh, the funny. So, before we move on to the next topic that I kind of teased and then got brought up, but I didn't draw attention to, Jen did not know that in Canada we have McDonald's in our Walmart. She told me this, like, yeah.
I did not know that. I thought that was purely like a southern fat ass American.
So yeah, I get a message from her saying, yeah, I went to McDonald's and I grabbed McDonald's because, we have McDonald's in our Walmart. I was like, what? Really? That's totally this mind-blowing new things. Next thing you're going to tell me is that Walmart's also selling food? What?
I thought that was like, I mean, it's fucking Walmart, which is the pinnacle of American corporate power. And then you have McDonald's, which is the symbol of American lazy decadence. So I'm like, how fucked up is it that we put these two things in one fucking place? You know what I mean? It's like, it's people of Walmart in America. And, those two things combined kind of are the poster child for the fat, lazy, I don't want to lose weight till I use a motor scooter Americans. And I'm like, oh my God, now they have a Walmart. And they have McDonald's and Walmart, so it just makes them fatter with more scooters. I mean, come on now. I thought that Canadians were above that.
No, we're just above you.
I thought you guys were above the typical over-consuming American consumption that is McDonald's inside of Walmart.
Surprise!
we're not.
You really are kind of like cousins.
Yeah, we're still pretty similar.
Yeah.
We try to be different.
I was so fascinated that
you guys rub off on
Canadians
us a
have
lot.
still come to that.
Take that for what it's worth.
Wait, what? We what?
You rub off on us a lot.
I'm so sorry.
No, you're not. You love rubbing yourself off.
I'm so sorry that we do.
And that's why we'll build a wall.
Rubbing myself.
Yeah.
rubbing myself off is one thing. Rubbing off on you, no.
Oh.
It's a lie. I mean, it's a blatant lie, Jen. So
you know damn well I rub off to Harry Styles and Kit Harington. Don't even try to make yourself
Kit Harington, who's this?
Don't do it. Oh
God.
Jon Snow.
Crap.
It's Jon Snow. Game of Thrones, Jon Snow.
Oh,
get the fuck off
I don't
the
watch
screen.
Game of Thrones. Uh-oh.
I just made a new best friend. Congratulations.
We're gonna start our own podcast on Game of Thrones. It'll be called Game of Thrones. What the hell is that?
Yeah. It'll be 2 episodes. First 30 seconds of the first one will be like, seriously, what the fuck?
Seriously. I will just read Wikipedia and IMDb.
Yes, love it. But since we have topics at hand, why don't we get back on those? I know, that's a great segue. I am the segue master. So, the discussion topics that we had planned, we kind of talked about the secular humanists at MRU, and now we're going to learn about Jason's past, because as he mentioned, he's a former Jehovah's Witness. He is Reformed.
That's fucking crazy.
I didn't realize he was going to bring that up earlier on, but as some of you who are really good at figuring out the plot lines in movies may have guessed, that's where we're going to go next. So, without taking the words out of your mouth, Jason, why don't you give us your heathen origin story?
A heathen origin story. Okay, I'll start by saying, so Jen, you're in New York, is that right?
No, I'm in Tennessee. I'm from New York.
Oh, you're from New York. Okay.
Yeah.
Because I just went to New York last summer for
Fuck you.
yeah.
Asshole.
I
See,
love
and
New York.
like I feel really bad for people that go now. I really do. I feel really bad for you guys.
They go now? Why?
Because it's not what it was when I was growing
Really?
up. It's not.
Well, it's always changing.
It's not what made it so fucking great. There's no fucking culture down there anymore.
Mm.
It's completely devoid of anything.
I get it. It's not the same because you're not there.
I mean, naturally.
So it's your fault.
But like, FAO Schwartz is gone. Toys R Us is gone. All these
Toys R Us.
Toys R Us
That's
is
culture?
gone?
Well, shut up. I'm making a point. Fuck you. I'm not at my point yet. Shut the fuck up. Anyway.
This is how we treat our guests. We tell them to sit down and shut the fuck up.
Like, all these little stores down in the village that made the village, the kind of freak beatnik little epicenter, have now completely gone out of business because they can't afford the rent. I mean, the fucking rent time when FAO Schwartz can't afford their fucking rent and they have to close out. Everything that made the city different and cultural has been completely whitewashed and priced out. So what you're seeing is this kind of nostalgic, wish we still had it experience for people that are going now. It's nothing like what it actually was anymore. And yeah, it's good. They cleaned up a lot of it and blah 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 blah. But to me, you kind of have to have the shit with the good. You need the balance. Because there's no fucking culture anymore. It's like, another Trump Tower. Oh, another multi-million-dollar condo that somebody from Saudi Arabia bought and will never live there. And, oh, okay. Oh, look, another boutique. Oh, look. It's because what? Keep talking shit, you motherfucker. I can't even hear you.
I told him not to get started on Trump, and then I explained that you hate him because he made you late for work twice.
I fucking hate that asshole anyway. But it's this, and I mean, the city still has a great vibe. There's still great food. Like I was saying, it's just all the stories you hear of New York and how it's so cool and it's so awesome. It's not that anymore. You don't get the actual experience. And while it's still great, it's not what it was. It's not the experience that everybody's chasing.
You should make a hat that says "Make New York Great Again."
No, I want a hat that says "Make New York Shit Again" because that's exactly what we need to happen. We need some.
So when was that?
We need some heroin addicts in fucking Alphabet
More
City.
heroin
We
addicts.
need those motherfuckers. We need them back.
We need more Hep C.
That's the epitome of culture.
We need the
Bacterial
fucking
cultures.
heroin addicts back in fucking in Alphabet City. We need the fucking drug fucking cornucopia that was at fucking Washington Square Park. I mean, there's fucking cops everywhere, just fucking everywhere. It's like, really, do you have nothing fucking else to do anymore than sit in a fucking park? And that Washington Square Park was in the village. It was like the freak kids, the kids that didn't fit in. This was the neighborhood that we went to. And you'd walk into there and there'd be like skater kids and stoner kids and the goth kids, because I'm old, so it was goth, not emo.
Fuck emo. Goth's the way to go.
And that's where, before it became so accepted, that's where the gay and lesbian community was and the transgender community was. It was all in that neighborhood. And I remember we used to walk in there. You could buy a bag of weed walking in the fucking park. Boom. Guy was right there. And we'd sit and we'd smoke and we'd hang out and we'd chill. And you'd meet all these fucking totally interesting people with amazing stories. Now you walk down there, there's cops fucking everywhere, the shit's brightly lit, you've got nothing but a bunch of Park Slope vegan anti-vax mothers pushing their kids in their fucking peg parental fucking trams all through the fucking park, and they're sitting there like, oh, they're smoking a cigarette here, my organic baby can't be exposed to that. Like, the fuck away from me. Like, what the fuck happened? You had these beautiful walk-ups, beautiful fucking 3-story walk-ups, that used to get inherited into the family because they were all rent controlled. They kicked them out. They're fucking vacant because they sell them to businessmen. They sell them to corporations so that they can put visiting clients into. So we have a housing crunch now because we have a shitload of fucking millions of dollar apartments that aren't being lived in. It's become the Crystal City at a huge price.
So when was that change, do you think? Like, when were you there?
It started when Julie... I was there 82. I was born in 82. I was there until 2005.
Oh, yeah.
And this started right as Giuliani took over. And granted, we went from Dinkins to fucking Giuliani. Dinkins, you couldn't even sit by house windows at night because of drive-bys. I mean, it was bad. It was fucking bad. Giuliani did come clean up a lot of the shit. Times Square is now a tourist area. And it's beautiful and it's bright and it's big. Where it used to be where you picked up hookers. You used to pick up fucking hookers in Times Square. You didn't go to Times Square after fucking dark. It was all peep shows and literal walk the fucking track hookers.
Now it's pedestrians, in Times Square.
Occasionally, I don't know. I can't remember. I think
they closed down most of the traffic.
The actual square traffic, yeah. You know, and Giuliani came in, and the city did need some cleaning up. I will say that. We were in the middle of a huge fucking crime spree. The city was in shit. I'll say that much. But he, kind of took it to way the next level. But there was still some middle class. Once Bloomberg came in, Bloomberg looked at the city as a business. And the man's a millionaire. And he's good at what he does.
Yeah.
But that's not the type of person that you hold on to when you want to keep culture and you want to keep people and you want to keep a city thriving. This is a man that you come in as a corporate takeover, and that's what he did. It was a complete corporate takeover from the city. Now we got de Blasio, who I think he just sits in his fucking office and jerks off all day. I haven't heard of one fucking thing this guy's done. I honestly think he sits there and throws a fucking vibrating butt plug up his ass and just fucking jacks off at Gracie Mansion all fucking day. I honestly think this is what this fucking man does, constantly. I don't even think he signs anything. I think he just sits there and that's fucking it.
That is a very interesting bit on Jason's past in Jehovah's Witness.
You know, his kids are half black. His kids are half black, half white.
Yeah.
So
this is very much.
I just kind of skip right over it, right? He throws his black kids out in front. And he's like, "Oh, I'm from the minorities, and because my kids are black." And then he goes back and he fucking jerks off in his office. Like, the fuck are you doing?
Well, you gotta make the people happy. You gotta go and talk to the public, and then do whatever you need.
I feel bad for his kids because they're like fucking puppets. But if you make under $120,000 a year in New York, you're not surviving. You're on the fucking street. The projects, the actual city funded housing projects, they're either being torn down or they're being converted into private co-ops and private condos that go for $2.5 million for a studio. Anybody that's experiencing New York right now is experiencing the Crystal City. And it's transparent, and it's see-through, and it's sanitized.
So, Jason, you went to New York once, I heard. Last summer, wasn't it?
My entire perspective of New York has changed. I feel like I've been cheated. I've been cheated out of New York. But
you have been. You should be fucking pissed about that.
The first time I went, though, it was, I think, 2007 or 2008, I believe. And then the last time I went was
that's when it was really starting to kind of get into the banker's paradise.
Because what I remember, I don't remember the crackheads and heroin addicts.
That's part of the.
If you don't remember seeing a crackhead or a heroin
maybe
addict
I did.
down on the street,
Maybe I did. Maybe I'm just so out of. I was.
You walked into the sterilized New York. If you didn't see them on the street, you walked into the sterilized.
Well, I probably saw a few, but I didn't see them doing anything that would immediately indicate to me that they were heroin addicts. But yeah, because I remember Times Square being mostly traffic, and then when I went just last summer, it was all pedestrians in Times Square. Wow. But the crazy thing is, the first time I went to New York was actually to do a tour of Jehovah's Witness headquarters, which is headquartered in Brooklyn.
Right.
And I went as a Jehovah's Witness to go tour the. I guess
most decadent
the prominent the headquarters of this wonderful organization that I belong to. And then the last time that I went, which was last summer in 2015, I went because I was going to an atheist convention in New York.
Which one?
It was for CFI actually, which is headquartered in Buffalo.
Okay.
So I went to Buffalo, and then I also went to Manhattan.
Yeah, they usually have.
But CFI was
the upstate chapters usually have them in the city because it can just accommodate more.
Oh, okay. Yeah. But CFI, their headquarters, they started in Buffalo, so I went to Buffalo, and they so it was actually for student groups, secular student groups, because CFI is CFI is trying to reach out and support those student groups.
That's fantastic.
Mm-hmm. So it was an interesting contrast and kind of surreal when I was in New York this last summer, to think that the first time I was there, I was there to bolster my faith and conviction in the one and true only religion
The
in the
next
world.
time was to go be a heathen, right?
Yeah, and then the next time I go is for an atheist workshop.
No, okay, I'm totally curious about this because I love Brooklyn. My very first apartment was in Brooklyn. My own apartment was in Brooklyn.
Cool.
I loved it, and the bedroom was literally, it fit a twin bed, and that was it. Like, the bed was in the living room. It was fantastic. Nice. It was, anyway. The Jehovah's Witness headquarters. I knew it was there, but I don't ever remember seeing it. Is it just like this nondescript building? Or?
No, they have tons of buildings there, and they're selling them all because they're moving to upstate New York, getting ready for the apocalypse. Because they can't
fucking afford it. No, see, not even the Jehovah's Witness can fucking afford it.
Well,
Brooklyn is now.
Yeah, but they're making a fuck ton of money because they bought when the housing was shit in Brooklyn, and they fixed up all the places because they have free slave labor. All the members
this is the point. Brooklyn is now more expensive to live in than Manhattan. Brooklyn's now outpriced Manhattan.
Really, eh? And that's why they're making so much fucking money selling their places. Do you not remember seeing the Watchtower sign? It said Watchtower.
I probably didn't really pay attention to it.
You can see it across what's the river there? Is that the Hudson or the? No, that's the east, right?
Wait, are you talking about from Manhattan?
Yeah, from Manhattan. When you look over to Brooklyn, you can see the big neon red sign that says Watchtower.
Oh my God, that's what
that is. Yeah. Huh?
I totally never made the connection.
That's what that is.
I never made the connection.
Because the magazine Watchtower.
Yeah.
That's what they started.
Yeah, it's not a Jimi Hendrix reference. Come on.
Yeah, exactly.
I never made that connection.
Yeah.
I've seen that fucking sign a million times, and I've never made the connection.
So they make their presence known. But they're exiting from.
But New York, there's signs everywhere.
Yeah, you just become
half of them are for shit that doesn't exist anymore. It's just they just keep it lit up because it looks bright. Oh my God, I never made that connection.
Fun facts for you, folks, about New York.
I never. My mind's blown right now.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, look at. I mean, they can't even afford to live in Brooklyn anymore.
Well, I think they realize they can sell their properties and make a fuck ton of money.
For millions.
Oh yeah, they're making and all tax free.
I mean, if they've got the property like that,
and they have multiple buildings there, multiple.
Right, and they're not paying property tax.
Nope, nothing. They're making a ton of money.
The biggest issue is the property tax out there.
Yeah.
If they're not paying property tax, let me tell you right now, I don't give a fuck who you are in New York. You've got prime fucking real estate like that you're not paying property tax on, keep it.
Yeah.
Keep it.
Yeah, it's true.
They probably
keep making more money.
Right, they're probably having a hard time it could be their members are having a hard time affording to live out there.
It could be, but I also think a bit of the reason is that they're expecting the apocalypse to happen anytime, and they want to have kind of their own safe haven, and they feel like New York, when the apocalypse comes, they don't want to be in Brooklyn. They want to be in kind of a safe haven. So they're moving out to upstate New York.
Every fucking apocalypse movie that happens, what's the first fucking
it's always New York. It's always New York.
It's always fucking New York. But you ever notice it's always New York, but it's always New York that survives it too?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
It's always New York always gets hits first, but everyone else in the country's dead, and we're like, oh no, we're good.
Fuck it, we get back to work.
Oh fuck, the Chinese food's gonna be fucking late.
All right. All right, so why don't you tell us a little bit about breaking away from being a J-dub?
Okay, so segue into
that's like douche chills. That's like, oh god.
So yeah, I went to New York in about 07, 08, and now I'm an atheist. So within that time period, I was born and raised as a Jehovah's Witness to fairly adamant believing parents within a congregation that was very intense as well. And yeah, within a matter of a few years, I was completely an atheist. And so, as you know, Jehovah's Witnesses have to go door to door preaching.
Yeah.
Right.
And I just always remember trying to teach people certain things that I just felt I couldn't properly convert them on. Things that just in my mind, I just couldn't back it up. One of the biggest things was was the flood in the Bible, which, by the way, Jehovah's Witnesses take a literal interpretation of the Bible. So Noah's flood
Like
absolutely.
the world literally flooded.
Yeah, the world literally flooded. Every single mountain peak, all the animals died. Animals went 2 by 2 into Noah's Ark, and only 7 were on the Ark, including one of his sons who happened to be black. This is kind of weird, even though everyone else is white, and then he just happened to have a black son. And
so his wife was cheating on him.
Yeah, I know. Red flag.
Yeah.
And so that was probably one of the biggest things that I was just unable to, that it just seemed kind of preposterous to me, but I just knew it had to be true because I was just always taught that it was true. And if that wasn't true, then what else wasn't true? Things would kind of crumble because you're presented with this complete package, and the package is supposed to be perfect. And so if anything is incorrect in it, then it can all fall to pieces. So you're taught that no, the package isn't incorrect. It's your understanding of it is incorrect. And so you should either adjust your thinking or just stop questioning it because it's mundane.
Because this is just how it is.
It's how it is. It's perfect. It's, just don't bother with it. So trying to convert people and preach to people on these certain things just was really, really difficult. And I just remember multiple interactions with people when I was preaching of them asking questions to me that just kind of resonated with me. Like this one guy, for example, he was a high school teacher, I believe, and he just kept looking at me and asking me, and he looked at me not belittling, but like as if like, come on, dude, like really? And that's what he said basically. He's like, really? Like really? You really think this is true? And I'm like, yeah, like this, And I said like, yeah, the Bible, it's really scientific. It's a scientific book. He's like, really? And then I'm like, yeah, like look at the scripture, and I read it to him, and he's like, really? And really? For some reason, that resonated with me so much. It was just like kind of the tipping point. I had already like really had just a lot of inner anguish and turmoil with these ideas.
Just with this ultimate epistemological question of
really? Of really? Yeah, no, it was that simple. It was like, he just wouldn't let it go. He wouldn't just accept it and say, oh, okay, well, if that's what you believe. But I couldn't back anything up with any evidence, and he just kept like, in a way, asking for more evidence, just saying like, really?
Huh.
And I just couldn't do it, and that kind of came crashing down with that moment, as well as other moments.
All right.
I'm actually looking at a very funny article about Jehovah's Witnesses right now.
Oh yeah? What's it say?
That proves just how much bullshit religion is and how everyone has a price. He was saying they were selling off their buildings, correct?
Yeah.
The first property the Witnesses put up for sale was on Furman Street, which sold for $205 million in 2004.
Yep.
Now a luxury waterfront condo called One Brooklyn Bridge Park. It is home to a penthouse on the market for $32 million.
Jesus.
The Bossert Hotel in Brooklyn Heights, which I know what that is, and was once used by witnesses as residences for staff members and out-of-town guests, sold for $81 million in 2012. It is being turned back into a hotel.
That is disgusting.
The witnesses sold 3 properties in Dumbo, including a former Brillo factory on Water Street, for a total of $30.6 million in 2013. They are on their way to becoming luxury apartments. The 6 former factories near the base of the Brooklyn Bridge that sold for $375 million, also in 2013, are being renovated into chic offices for tech startups and trendy businesses like Etsy, WeWork, and the jeweler Alexis Bitar.
Jesus.
So,
and another reason that those properties are...
This is $1 billion, right?
Oh, absolutely. And they still have more properties. They still have more properties. And one of the reasons that they're worth so much, like obviously the location is huge, but also they're in immaculate condition.
That's prime fucking property.
Yeah, but they're in immaculate condition, and that's because they have all these members who volunteer all their time to keep these buildings in perfect shape.
Now, this is an article back from January of this year. Now, the building that actually has the Watchtower sign, the headquarters. It's a 733,000 square foot headquarter complex and 2 other properties, all owned by the witnesses, have been offered for sale to the highest bidders. A contest that is expected to bring in as much as $1 billion.
Yeah.
Jesus.
They're going to turn that. It's a huge asset sale. A chief executive of Megalith Capital Management, which is developing, with partners, 2 luxury residential buildings on former witness sites in Dumbo. They're turning them into apartments. This is what I meant by the crystallization and gentrification of New York City. You get guys like this, like Megalith Capital.
Mm.
And what are they going to do? They're going to sell multi-million-dollar offices and apartments. Now, are the fucking Jehovah's Witnesses crazy? Oh, fuck yeah, they're nuts. They're fucking insane, dude. They're fucking crazy. But it was part of what made the culture of New York. It was something different. It was something kind of offbeat. And now what happened? They sold all their businesses for billions of dollars, and they're turning them into luxury condos that only beggars can afford.
Yep.
And we're going to move in hipsters like Etsy, because we need more fucking hipsters in New York City, ladies and gentlemen.
That was very well timed.
What are we gonna have now? We're gonna have a bunch of fucking poser ass hipster kids with their fucking hair like this, all in the face like this, right, like this, and they look at their.
For
fucking
those not able to see what Jen's doing, she's combing her hair right over her eyes.
I'm doing the emo, the emo look. And they all look at their fucking phones, so they ain't fucking walking nowhere, right? And then you try to fucking walk behind these son of a bitches because you need the fucking work to pay your rent. And these little fucking bastards don't go anywhere. And then when you tell them, hey, get the fuck out of my way, you fucking... Get the fuck out. Just go. Just fucking go. With their Starbucks and their fucking kale and their fucking Whole Foods, like... shuffling in the fucking street with their Vans and their fucking Toms on and their fucking leggings and the hair and the fucking phone. So now we're going to have shit like Etsy and all these fucking apartments. Why? So some little fucking bitch from Oklahoma with rich mommy and daddy decides she can go run away on her daddy's money to prove something. You know what?
That is a cynical yet honest outlook.
It's the rich Midwest. And I'm going to go to NYU and I'm going to be hip and I'm going to be edgy and I'm going to change the world because I go to NYU. No, bitch, the only thing you're fucking changing is your federal loan status for 80 fucking grand, okay? You ain't changing shit. Let me put a kitten in my purse and get some Starbucks and cut my hair and I'm a real New Yorker now. No, until you've had to roll a half-dead heroin addict off your fucking stairs, bitch, you're not a fucking real New Yorker, okay?
So there are 2 other touching points that I was kind of hoping to get to, and not just because Jason's within arm's reach and his apartment is small enough that I can probably get to him in anywhere he goes.
Sexy.
I know, right? It's the webcam show we're going to start up afterwards. Anyways, so I'm kind of curious because in the secular communities there's a strong focus on, there's Mormonism, there's there are podcasts where they read the Book of Mormon, there was a podcast that read the Quran, but we don't talk about that. There's the scathing atheists, they're covering the Quran, they've read the Bible and now they're reading the Quran, the crazy bastards. And so there's been a lot of biblical readings. There's Thomas in the Bible who's reading the Bible from start to finish. The poor bastard, it is painful to listen to because you can tell that man is in agony.
And you can tell he's like nodding off as he's reading. He's like,
and you have exposés on Scientology. Now I'm kind of curious. So are there any things that Jehovah's Witnesses try to keep under lock and key? So for example, you ask your low-end Scientologist about Xenu and they kind of give you this glazed blank look because they have no idea what the hell you're talking about. Is there anything like that going on in the Jehovah's community?
Probably, I would say the past beliefs are what they try to keep under wraps more than anything. And, well, I mean, information control is massive. Everything it comes out of, so like I said, the headquarters is in New York, in Brooklyn. And there's the governing body who oversees everything, and they're made up of, I believe at the moment, it's 8 old men who dictate absolutely everything to every follower, which every follower has to believe and has to behave in the way that they dictate across the world.
Right?
Yeah, or else you're excommunicated, essentially. So they control all the information that everyone receives. There's definitely like a hierarchy within, like I know, or I hear within Scientology, like you have to reach a certain level to hear about Xenu or something.
Yeah, it's like OT and 17 or
Yes,
some
yeah.
shit like
Once you've
that.
paid
Yeah.
enough money and gone through
Yeah,
all
once
the
you,
dynamics.
I think it's once you've given $1 million, you can start hearing about it.
Yeah, once you've been audited enough, I guess. But so there's not really that. I mean, once you get into the inner workings of it, once you get kind of promoted to the higher ranks, then then you're privy to certain information about uh, maybe their legal issues they faced in the past and whatnot. But as far as if you're just like an average member who doesn't really want to move up too high within the ranks, and I'm talking within like moving to New York or to different branches and whatnot, you're basically, you just take all the information that they're giving you, and they continually change their rhetoric and change their beliefs. For example, the guy who started the religion in the late 1800s, around 1879, he was from Pennsylvania, named Charles Taze Russell, and he had some crazy beliefs. And so he was a millennialist, believed in that the end of the world would happen right away.
That would happen as far as like 1900 it was.
Yeah, so he was actually predicting dates. He predicted a couple dates which didn't come true, and then he ultimately predicted 1914 to be the end of the world.
Right,
and and they thought for sure that was going to happen because World War I broke out. And then, what do you know, the world didn't end. And by the world ending, I mean Jesus and God literally destroy the world. Like everyone except for the few chosen members survive.
Like, Jesus and Satan duke it out and fucking take
everything
scorched earth.
Yeah,
kind of
exactly.
Yeah,
so they thought, oh shit, the world's going to hell in 1914 now. This is, our predictions are true, and it ended up not being true. So they stuck with the date 1914, but just changed the information. They changed it from saying, the end of the world is in 1914 to basically that no, we meant Jesus was going to be coming spiritually, his new kingdom would come, but it wouldn't really affect us in any way. Just some kind of bullshit that just to cover it over.
And I mean, they could kind of make the argument with that because we got into World War One, and then that progressively kind of set this country at least on this kind of Christian path, and then World War II hit, and then that kind of amped it up, and then all of this shit led to the Cold War.
Yeah, and in my opinion,
I can see how they can argue it.
Yeah.
That, oh no, we meant that, this was turning us more towards Jesus type of shit. Wow, that's fucking genius marketing.
Yeah, so in my opinion, because genius. I mean, around that time there's a lot of small groups like that, a lot of people exactly like Charles Taze Russell, a lot of these groups starting up, and I think the fact that he used that date 1914, and the fact that just so happened that World War I broke out at that time, and they changed their wording, and they said, we did say 1914. You guys all know we said 1914, but they just kind of changed what they were saying about it. I think that kind of solidified them as a religion. Yeah, exactly.
It was opportunistic.
Yeah, it made some people feel that there's actual...
which really is kind of any religion. It's just a matter of... It was like bringing Christianity to Scandinavia. It was this opportunity of they had been embroiled in war with Southern Europe from raiding and pillaging and fighting back and forth, that essentially they were both broken. What a great fucking time to come in and say, oh, your gods are great, but your gods want you to die for them. Why don't you have a God that wants you to live for him and spread his word?
A great opportunity.
Now we've got Christianity in northern fucking Europe and Scandinavia, ladies and gentlemen. I think that's, but I mean, how was it living in this religion that you were constantly, you've always been taught that you are constantly under fear from this apocalyptic world ending?
Yeah.
Like, how does that fuck with your head?
I mean, it's terrifying.
I mean, especially as a child, where you kind of don't...
Oh, totally. And you're given images. You're exposed to actual images that are drawn out for you by the leaders, basically, or by the organization.
The elders type of shit, yeah.
They're of people dying at Armageddon. Like, literally, the world, like, meteorites are striking the planet, and that all these people are dying.
They give this to kids?
And this is given to kids. I remember this. A lot of people have nightmares, actually. A lot of Jehovah's Witnesses and ex-Jehovah's Witnesses have nightmares about this happening. And you're kind of always you're always teetering because it's so hard. Basically, the only way you can survive Armageddon is if you reach this like criteria. If you believe in what they're saying, and if you behave in a certain way that they want you to behave, and if you don't do it, then you're going to die at Armageddon, along with everyone else on the planet, all the atheists, all the Muslims, all the other Christians.
Yeah, I mean, even if a child in their mind thinks that they're being the perfect Jehovah's Witness, just the fact of thinking of this happening around you, and your pets and your friends, and like that fucks with a kid, man. Like, oh my God, I'm a perfect Jehovah's Witness, but my dog is gonna suffer.
Exactly. Or a lot of us would have like family members, like grandparents or something, not in the religion, and we're taught that basically they're going to die as well.
This horrible.
Yeah, it is, and it's not even
just to think of.
Yeah, it's just horrible depictions of death.
Just to think of, you have this comfortable life with your parents, and
it's like a
going to be taken
gore
away
porn
from you
almost.
when you're.
Yeah, just to scare you into it, and
you have this like. Comfortable life with your parents, and I wouldn't say that I'm completely in agreement with how Jehovah's Witnesses raise their children, but the kids are provided for, they have a home, they have this kind of comfortable living with their parents, and it's literally like you live every day thinking, I can wake up today and like my house will be on fire and we have to run, and like kind of like living like Syrian refugees, but like you wake up every day like, is this the day?
Mm-hmm. And you're
like,
taught that it's
that?
Literally just around the corner, and
exactly.
That it's kind of like where you're at when the end comes is how you'll be judged. So it doesn't matter how you were doing in the past. If you all of a sudden have a slip up, and you do something wrong, maybe you watch a bad movie that they don't want you watching or something like that, and then the end comes, there's a high chance you might die because of it. Just because of the bad timing.
That's abusive. That's fucking abuse.
Mm-hmm. So it's
that is psychological torture.
Oh, absolutely.
Because at least like with like Catholics and Muslims, it's like it's not around the corner. It'll just kind of come eventually, type of shit.
Mm-hmm.
Like no Catholic, no Christian. It's like Jesus is coming tomorrow. Not at least in the major sector. It's just kind of like yeah, this is gonna happen.
Yeah.
We don't know when, but eventually. And there's a buildup in Catholicism to where it's like things start happening in the world to kind of prepare us for this final battle. Like the disease and the horsemen. I still can't get it out of my head.
Revelation.
Actual come.
With the sword mouth Jesus and the fire breathing Jews.
Right. Like I still in my head, I remember reading Revelation and thinking that actual colored horses were going to come out of the sky with like their riders, like in these big clouds, and like actually break scroll seals, and like from there, like things like flew up out of the scrolls. This is the type of shit that I think of when I think of the apocalypse. But it's like, it's like, yeah, you'll see some signs, you'll kind of know what's coming. There's gonna be this leader that everyone kind of likes, and good Catholics will be like, wait a minute, and then it's gonna happen. Jehovah's Witness, it's like I can wake up tomorrow and there's the fucking earth is in flames.
Yeah.
That's fucking ridiculous.
and it's a way to keep you in check, right? It's saying like, make sure you do all these things because when the end comes, you don't want to be on God's bad side. And guess what? The end is coming any moment. And they've been really obsessed with predicting dates, although to their detriment.
Yeah,
they predicted that the end would come in 1975, and that really burnt them. And now they're pretty hesitant.
One in the 90s. I think it was like 95, 96.
Yeah, there's been a few kind of more unofficially, more just like hearsay and whatnot. But yeah, I think they're trying to probably wisely steer away from predicting days. But instead, they just say it's honestly it's happening like anytime. Like turn on the news, look how terrible things are. Like any day now, any day.
And it's Jehovah's Witnesses for the large part are very isolated.
That's a great marketing scheme.
Oh, yeah.
They're a very isolated group. So I can understand that now to where you kind of you can't really be isolated with the technology and the resources that we have now. I'm sure to a devout Jehovah's Witness now being kind of thrown all of this information from shit that's been going on around the world since the beginning of fucking human history. I mean, you really can't act shocked that shit's going on in the world because this is what we've done since the beginning of human history.
Mm-hmm. It's just more exposed to it now.
Right, we just have more access to it. So coming from such an isolated group to them being thrown into all this shit, this must really seem like the fucking end of the world. Because it's, you're kept.
Yeah.
And now you're being kind of exposed to all of this, and it's like, oh my god, the round the corner's right here because it's now coming at you. Full, it's not like growing up in the the real world, quote unquote, where you're kind of gradually exposed.
Yeah. Oh, totally. And it's
shit.
it's very overwhelming for a lot of people because it's such a culture shock when you come out of the religion, because you're exposed only to a certain rhetoric and certain information and certain people. And everyone around you agrees with you, and everyone around you has the same perspective on life. And, you're not exposed to, like, for example, Jehovah's Witnesses drink, but not a lot. So, and you're definitely not allowed to do drugs. So these sorts of things that you're just not allowed to be exposed to at all. So that as soon as you are out and potentially you do expose yourself to them, it can be really dangerous because you don't understand any of it.
No.
I have a question for
you. How old were you when you left?
I was about 21 or 22, I think.
All right, so you lived your whole life in this community.
Yeah.
When you decided to leave Jehovah's Witness and then start becoming really exposed to what's really going around, on in the world, and not having your exposure limited, did you ever have this moment where you saw everything that's going on and thought, "Oh my God, what if they were right?"
Yeah, you get that a lot, actually. Like that kind of phases out after a while. It's the mind control, right?
Right.
I remember doing when I really kind of took the plunge and started to really delve into information that was critical of the organization and into even evolution, for example, or started reading The God Delusion or something like that. I just craved information. I would literally spend 14 hours straight every single day, basically, just reading and on podcasts and videos, and just because it was just just this insatiable need for new information because I had only been fed a certain type of information.
Well, it's a perpetual echo chamber, really.
Oh yeah, totally.
Yeah. But I mean, like, in your transition period to where you know how when you first leave religion, you still kind of have those doubts about whether or not their message was true.
Yeah. So
like when you started to see kind of how fucked up the world is, did you ever have this moment where you're like, oh my God, what if the JWs were right and it is right?
Yeah, it was crazy because I was saying that because I would honestly do research for 12 hours or so, for a full day. I would be sitting there and do research, and I'd sit down and finish off, and I'd be like, okay, there's no way in hell that the Jehovah's Witnesses are right. All this research I just did blows everything out of the water. It's complete batshit. It's completely crazy. And then all it would take is just maybe I'd go on Facebook and see, like you said, some sort of thing happening or just something.
Like a terrorist attack,
and
or
instantly
like
all
Ebola
that,
or something.
Yeah, and instantly all that research I just did and that feeling I had of confidence in my new critiques of the religion were instantly thrown out the window because I had been trained the specific way, and the mind just goes back to what it knows. And so it took a long time to get over that, and a lot of ex-Jehovah's Witnesses face that a lot. But it's definitely a fading out process where now I can't, in the last probably year, maybe two, I probably haven't had one of those thoughts at all.
Yeah, but I'm sure you had.
Well, that's why they set up a few Grief Beyond Belief chapters. There are lots of different resources that they now offer. I mean, obviously, if you're not invested in it, in the community, you probably won't find out about it. But there are a lot of different organizations that now are trying to work on recovering from religion. I believe that's the organization I'm thinking of, where they offer services to people who are dealing with, for example, PTSD because they can't get out of their head that, oh my God, what if I'm going to hell? And it creates just such a strong visceral reaction that it impacts their day-to-day life and their well-being, and they're trying to move on, but they just physically can't because it's stuck in their head that that's the way life is. That they're challenging the actual truth, and now they're afraid that maybe my life choices are going to wind me up in hell, even though I can't say I honestly believe them. This is merely just an anxiety or an anxious response.
Yeah, and sometimes it just takes that person to reassure you, to keep you on track. So that's why support groups are so important, because you can just go back to that same thing. And for someone who's never experienced it, or someone who's out of it, it seems so simple. It's like, well, yeah, obviously you're not going to go to hell, if you believe this thing. Obviously not. But for the person who's experienced this and been taught this their entire lives, it's so hard not to think that,
to differentiate, especially in the beginning.
Yeah, exactly. No matter how, it just, rationale doesn't apply to that. It's just, it's learned ideas that are just stuck in your mind that you can't really get out, that you have to work through.
That's why I think that's why leading faith support groups are so important.
Absolutely,
totally.
Because it kind of is like this addiction. It really is, because people turn to faith as this comfort.
Mm-hmm.
And they're going through shit and they pray or whatever, and it kind of washes over this calmness to them, which is exactly what drugs do. It kind of it attacks the dopamine receptors and everything else, and lowers your adrenaline, and gives you the feel good.
Mm-hmm.
And there are times when things are gonna go hard, and what the fuck is my cat doing? There's times where things are gonna go hard, and you are gonna want to run to the faith because it's comforting, and you need an outlet to separate yourself from that.
Mm-hmm. That's
to kind of not go back.
That's recently been my message, actually, my critique of the organization of Jehovah's Witnesses, is how dangerous it is when members leave, whether the members leave by choice or not. It's an extremely dangerous situation, because, as you probably know, they institute the shunning policy. They mandate shunning for any member who leaves. Actually, a lot of people don't know that this exists, or at least just don't know the extent of it. So I'll say, my situation, to illustrate the extent of it. If I see my parents on the street, they will ignore me. They will walk the other way.
God.
See, I had no idea this even existed.
Exactly. So a lot of people don't know this. And so when you leave the religion, you only are exposed to certain people. So you only have a certain group of friends that you're allowed to have.
Right.
And all of a sudden, all those people shun you. And on top of that, you're taught a certain worldview that now you realize is possibly not true. So you're dealing with these huge monumental changes. And then you're in this world that you have no idea anything about it.
And you're alone.
And you're completely alone. So it's incredibly dangerous. And a lot of people go down dark roads, whether it be drug use or just just
dangerous behavior.
Behavior. Or I do know a fair amount of people firsthand who have taken their lives because of this. And it's something, like you say, Jen, that you don't know about it. And that's a common response that I get from a lot of people. And it's really concerning to me, because I know that for myself, I was on, luckily I didn't do anything to harm myself, but it was a very, very dangerous situation. And I was able to make it through. But I know if someone didn't have the same mindset that I did, or strength that I did, it could easily go into a very dark,
which is very hard to find in a community that is so oppressive.
Yeah.
And so controlling.
Yeah,
anybody with a extremely strong will and spirit is not going to be oppressed and controlled like this. They're natural fighters. Mm-hmm. At least not for long. So they don't prey on people who a lot of the time would have the strength to get themselves through that.
Yeah.
Well, that's a common behavior that you see in, for example,
cults.
Yeah, it's a very cult-like behavior, but I think it's Utah's the Mormon state.
Yeah.
To come out as Mormon down there is to commit social suicide, or to come out as Mormon, no. To be a Mormon and come out as, not Mormon is basically social suicide. Married couples will split up. Parents will no longer be allowed to see their children. Their best friends will no longer talk to them. They'll be completely excommunicated from everyone, and their entire social support system is just completely gone. And I was going to ask you about your parents, and thank you for bringing that up before I had a chance to really get there, because I was trying to figure out how I could delicately word it enough.
How to approach it
in case of, worst case scenario.
If you do leave and you are shunned and you decide to come back to the faith, what happens then?
I would have to do a lot of groveling, and I would have to fool people into thinking that I believe in it. So I would either have to fool myself or actually start believing it. or I would have to fake it until I make it. And so it's usually about a 6 month to a year process of you having to like go to their meetings, but you're quarantined into an area where nobody talks to you, literally like a back room that is closed off as if you have some sort of disease. You're quarantined off, and you have to do this for a year, basically. Between 6 months to a year is the average time that it takes someone, and you would have to constantly be meeting with the elders in the hall, confessing your sins, basically, and saying, I believe in this, I do believe this. You have to reprogram, exactly.
It's a debrief and reprogram, pretty much.
Yeah, and so you have to convince them that, yes, he does believe this, and he's repentant. He's very sorry for what he did, and he wants to come back, and we deem that he can come back. And then if they deem you can come back, oh, guess what? Okay, you can have your family back again.
Wow.
They have control over that. And just recently, so every year during the summertime around the world, they have major conventions where new information is released and whatnot. And so all the same information is being shared around the world. The recent one in Calgary just happened, I think, a month ago, and I think most of them are kind of wrapping up. But the theme of the entire 3-day convention is loyalty to Jehovah. That's the theme of it, meaning loyalty to their organization, basically.
Right.
And one of the talks is called "Shun Unrepentant Wrongdoers," and that's
Jesus.
Yeah. If you go onto their website and ask about shunning, like go to their frequently asked questions, they tiptoe around and they say, we don't really do it, But now they're giving their
behind the scenes.
Exactly, but they're legitimately spewing this information and demanding this from their followers. It's not just the culture that is just kind of happening; it's the governing body, the ones controlling the information, are demanding it from their followers.
Right. It's not like it kind of varies at each church and each division, and this elder might see it this way, and this elder might be more forgiving. No, this is a
and you do get differences around the globe in different congregations and whatnot, but fundamentally from the horse's mouth, like from the organization, from the head honchos,
the elders, quote unquote. Yeah,
that is how it is. Like if your son or daughter is not playing by the rules, you can't talk to them. You have to cut off all association with them.
See, and I mean, I'm kind of a woman of rational thinking. If a fucking organization told me that we don't think your son is playing by our rules, so you can't speak to him, I'd be like, fuck you.
Yeah.
Whatever God you believe in is really, if a God will separate a child from their parents, when there's really no need to, you know what I mean? I mean, minus, death or whatever the fuck. If your God is telling me that I have to abandon my child, that in the Bible itself made such a fucking hardcore thing about, parental bonding and, God, this is God's gift to me. This is a gift from God, and now you're telling me God's making me turn away from it. What the fuck is wrong with your God? This is very contradictory.
To me, it's very humbling because I've seen, like, my parents are great people, to be honest. They're fantastic. But they've just been corrupted by this idea. And so to me, I find that very humbling to think, like, what would it take for me to be corrupted by an idea? Like, what are the chances that I could have been corrupted? Like, maybe I didn't start questioning things, and I had kids. I would do the same fucking thing to them. And that's really scary,
I couldn't imagine I can't imagine my son not walking into a room and not acknowledging him. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. It's a scary thought, and but I think it is really eye-opening, and it helps you understand how people can follow terrible,
so lost.
Yeah, and follow such terrible people and their teachings, like Hitler, for example. Obviously,
I mean, to sever something that's instinctual. I mean, animal instinctual is to acknowledge you're young and protect it.
Yeah, I know
This is actual instinct. I mean, this is part of human survival as a species, is to make sure that, at least, in humans we're very different than other animals, but we have this family structure so that generations of offspring are cared for. So that we, and that's our driving force to keep this species going.
Yeah.
The fact that this gets so ingrained that it literally makes you sever a animal instinct.
And you can
Ingrained
tell
survival instinct.
You can tell it's going against nature too, because it's so painful for everyone involved. Like, I can only imagine the hurt and pain that my parents feel on a daily basis.
Well, they had to cut ties with their child.
Exactly. And so you can see that it's not natural behavior. But they're just able to, the organization is able to pitch it in such a way and control the information in such a way that they're able to make it work, you know?
And
humans are tribal creatures. Humans by nature are tribal creatures.
And another element too,
you can go back to the earliest, the literal earliest, mitochondrial Eve and, Y-DNA Adam. They came from tribes in Africa, and this was millions of years ago. I mean, we're instinctually a tribal people. We hold on to generations. This is how we survive as humans. And then just to be like, cut that. That's like what we came from. Primates do this shit.
I think
primates keep, granted their young goes off like, we do. We just take longer to do this shit. But when their young has a baby, it's still in the tribe.
I think they're able to kind of hijack that and redefine what the tribe is, and say the tribe isn't. No,
what they say bonds. Is that it's their tribe, and their tribe is the only tribe that's going to be saved.
Yeah, exactly.
Meanwhile, they're forcing actual animal instinct to sever.
So
I mean, this is how fucked up it is. They're fucking programming people to go against human survival instinct.
Yes.
It's intense.
So, as we get ready to wrap up, because I think we've gone on for a fair bit here.
Yeah. The cat's looking at me like, okay, like, damn good one.
Obviously, culturally relevant. Prince died recently. I think we're all aware that he was Jehovah's Witness, which was kind of hilarious. So, did you?
Which is, I think that's why his death was so shocking, because he was such an outspoken JW.
Yeah.
And then to find out that it was abusing prescription pills.
Opiates, no less. So have you guys heard the story about how it kind of became culturally mainstream?
No.
So what happened was there was this couple. They're at their house. And there's a knock on their door, and it's a Jehovah's Witness preacher. They open the door, and there's Prince standing there, and they're huge Prince fans. So they're like, "Oh my God!" And they're trying to they invite him in, and they're trying to get him. Like they want to talk about his music. It's like, "Oh my God, your music's so amazing!" Blah blah blah. And all he wanted to do was talk about the Watchtower.
Now I have a question. I actually have a question. Prince's music was overtly sexual. That was baby making music. You turn that shit on, someone's walking out pregnant. We all know that shit. Were you guys allowed to listen to his music because he was a Jehovah's Witness, or were you not allowed to because of the content?
That's such a weird one, because we never really believed that he was, because we knew the rules and we know he's not following them, and we were kind of ashamed of it too.
Sex is like a bad thing.
Oh
right?
yeah,
like sex,
totally.
I mean, I wouldn't say bad, but it was like for procreation purposes only.
Yeah, between a married man and woman. Yeah, it was.
Like you
don't
talk
kind of
about
weird.
Cream get on top and get off and shit like that. Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, it was. I don't know. It was kind of weird. Most of us, like when I was a Jehovah's Witness, we didn't really want to say that he was a witness. We didn't want to believe it because he wasn't really following the rules that we were, And we kind of felt a little bit cheated if he was. And I think he actually was officially. He was officially baptized and recognized as Jehovah's Witness.
Yeah, but
but he was not following the rules according to how most
He doesn't have to work as hard
talks.
as you guys did because he was a face.
Yeah.
For the cause type of shit.
Yeah, and he had money too, right? So
more money than he needed.
Yeah. So yeah, that's kind of a weird thing, because I think if you talk to a lot of Jehovah's Witnesses,
Tom Cruise. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like Tom Cruise and John Travolta with Scientology. I'm sure they get away with way more.
It's true, but the weird thing with
face of it, you know what I mean?
The weird thing with that is Scientology, they tend to praise that person, but for Jehovah's Witnesses, they kind of don't like to do that. If you the next Jehovah's Witness you talk to them about two things: shunning, ask them why shunning still exists, and ask them about Prince, and see how they just kind of squirm about Prince. They'll be like, "Oh, he's not. No, he would." No, I don't think he was
associating him with us. No.
Yeah.
No,
so it's kind of weird.
So before we wrap up, Jason, where can so if there are any local listeners who want to find out more about Secular Humanists Mount Royal or just and kind of in general in the city, where do you think they should go?
Well, they can like our Facebook page, which is the SHMRU, or they
We'll link that.
Yeah.
We will link that.
Right on. Or you can search me as well on Facebook and add me, and I'm free to chat. If you're curious about any sort of information on critical information on Jehovah's Witnesses, you can go to jwfacts.com, which is a fantastic website that really helped me.
I love that website. It's like the Mormon facts and like the Scientology facts website. I fucking love that.
Yeah, that stuff is good.
Ripping the doors off this shit. I fucking love it.
Yeah, so go to JW Facts. Feel free to stop by jw.org too, which is the official Jehovah's Witness website. If you want, but just make sure you offset it with a healthy dose of reality.
Let them know what you really think about Prince, ladies and gentlemen. They love comments. They love feedback.
Yeah, they love feedback. They love to hear what their members really think.
They love it. Find them on Facebook and just ask them
and they'll be super open. They'll ask for all their financial documents too, and they'll gladly
They're totally They're as transparent as the city they're selling their buildings in, ladies and gentlemen.
Sorry, I was just following his instructions, making sure that I did like the SHMRU, and found him on Facebook, which I tried to do a while ago and didn't work out as well as planned. All right. So I think that about wraps it up. We've gone on for about an hour and a half at this point, though after editing, who knows how long this is going to be. If I can cut in little funny sounds or anything like that. So Jason, we really want to thank you for your time. I know this has gone on
I had a blast with you. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
This has gone on a little longer than planned, so I really appreciate you offering up your time.
And we started later than planned. I'm sorry. That's my fault.
Single mothers, right?
Yeah. We're willing to work with you, though. And
Thank you.
We can't wait till you come to Canada.
I swear, I'm not going to leave. Like, I'll come and visit.
Yeah, that's all right.
I'm like, apply for asylum. I'm an atheist in a Trump world. Apply for asylum.
So with that, we'd like to close out for the night. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Once again, Jason, thank you. And Jen.
Thank you.
Well, thank you for showing up.
Yeah, fuck it. I'll text you later. That's it.
Yep, pretty much. Good night, everybody.
The Not Another Atheist podcast experience is run by Jen and Keith. If you wish to contact the hosts, please write to nehehp@gmail.com. They can be found at facebook.com/NotAnotherAtheistPodcast or search Not Another Atheist Podcast on iTunes and Stitcher to subscribe and leave reviews.
I'm done. Hit it.
So, Jen.
What?
You ready for this, bitch?
Whatever. But it... The fuck? I'm talking!
Just keep talking. He's going to the bathroom. You're fine.
This was directed at him.
Uh-oh.
Am I that fucking boring?
He has to make tinkles.
Hold the tinkle.
Hold the tinkle.
Wait, are you at your report?
No, we're at his.
I was gonna say, I don't know that background.
I moved again and didn't tell you.
I don't know that corner.
Hey, you leave the corners I work on alone.
No, I put the baby in the corner. At least this one doesn't eat when I'm hungry. Does it really take this long to pay? What takes men so long to go to the bathroom?
Are you serious right now? It has been like not even 30 seconds. He is rushing. I hear him. I'm pretty sure he dribbled a lot more in his pants than the average male does.
I want to know why it takes men so long to take a shit.
Because we use our phones. We don't normally sit down, and once we get down there, we're comfy.
Okay, see, at least that's an honest answer.
And that's why we'll build a wall.
I'm picking up my panties and I'm going home, okay?